This week, Climate Group is highlighting nature, and I have the pleasure of speaking with the Honourable Meredith Berger, who is Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Energy, Installations and Environment. Ms. Berger is responsible for providing oversight and policy for Navy and Marine Corps energy and climate resilience, infrastructure sustainment, restoration and modernization, military construction, acquisition, utilization and disposal of real property and facilities, environmental protection, planning, restoration, and natural resources conservation. And one might not immediately think of the Navy when talking about nature, but that's why I'm so excited to have this conversation today. So thank you so much for joining me. Let's jump straight into get right to the heart of the point here and ask, why does the Department of the Navy care about nature?
So, Adam, this is our operational environment. So there is no way that we cannot care about nature. Actually, when I came into this job, we had a whole directorate just focused on environment. And the change was to make it environment and mission readiness, because it turns out that a good environmental environment where we have making sure that we are good stewards of the place that we are is also a good place for us to train, to operate, to make sure that we are successful as the Navy and Marine Corps at the mission set that we're required to do. So nature is important because we wouldn't be able to do our jobs without it.
How does nature fit into the actions that you're taking on climate?
So climate, when we look at what's happening in the environment, we see a threat. This is a national security threat when we see climate change. And so what we need to do is take climate action. Now, I mentioned that nature, the environment, is where we operate. And so as we think about how to take action against the climate threat, two important things. First, there are no bounds, just like nature, because it's our operational environment. And so as we see that there are no bounds, we need to make sure that we are operating against that threat in a way that takes into account the fact that it's coming at us from all angles. Nature knows that best. And so as we look at ways to combat this threat, we replicate what we see in nature. Often we see a lot of these impacts because we've outpaced nature's ability to respond. And so as we look at technology, as we look at ways that we're going to be able to take action against the threat, it is replicating what nature does and accelerating it. But nature knows best, and that is a first lesson that we always consider. I'll note that the Navy and the Marine Corps, we learn a lot from tribal and indigenous partners. We look a lot from how to make sure that a mission-ready environment is also a pristine environment. And we make sure that we're applying all of that to the way that we are operating so that we are being good stewards of the environment and executing in a no-fail way on the mission of defending the nation and being a good partner to our allies.
And we've worked together a lot over the years, and it's been really exciting to hear of some of the initiatives that the Navy is taking in this space, not least in terms of bringing together the skills that are required to take on this challenge. I'd love to hear what initiatives you're most excited about.
Well, first and foremost, I'm so excited to make sure that people understand the connection between the work of the Department of the Navy and the Marine Corps, and the service to the nation, and that it is inextricably tied to nature, to the environment, to combating the climate threat. And so that is a place that we are playing a huge part, that we are seeing the impacts of the threat. I'll frame for you that when we see a lot of the reasons that we are required to respond, it is increased strength of storms, increased temperatures, both heat and cold, too much, too little water. These are the things that are causing conflict around the world. When we see impacts to nature, we see impacts to resources. When we see impacts to resources, we see causes of conflict. We see conflict over water, over land, over food, over economics. And when we see people start to fight over that, you see those conflicts arise, and we increase the mission set that requires the Navy and the Marine Corps to respond. And so at its base, if we're making sure that we are good stewards of the environment, that these resources are available, we are staving off conflict, and we are ensuring a bigger, better sense of global peace. And that is first and foremost the mission of the Department of Defense. We are diplomats and we deter so that we see less conflict in the world. That is what environmental stewardship is. That is what climate action is. That is what the Navy and the Marine Corps are doing so that when we see a more volatile world, we can respond, but we want to make sure that first and foremost, we are not seeing that increase in conflict, because that is going to increase our mission set and make it so that it is harder to do that for mission set that we're responsible for.
I'd imagine, listening to your answer there, you obviously work in so many different environments. That must require a really broad set of skills and expertise to support you in the work that you're doing.
It is an incredible team at the Department of the Navy, and I'll note that it is environmental experts, it's climate experts, it's water experts, people who work in oceans and biodiversity, in water quality and water quantity, in reducing water stress, in making sure that when we are operating on the land in an environment, building an installation, conducting training, that we're doing so in a way that is going to make us good stewards of the environment as well. We actually have a program that is entirely dedicated to investing in land and nature and ensuring that it has the right funding, resourcing, and expertise focus to preserve the environment, so that we can also ensure that there is a good training environment for our sailors and for our Marines. So we will invest in things like ensuring that native species thrive and invasive ones are removed, because that helps to retain water inside of the ecosystem, make sure that biodiversity exists and is strong and the right species are responding, so that we see recharge both of the ecosystem in terms of the species and also the water that is available. Hawaii is a great example of this. Out in the Manoa Valley, we are working to make sure that we are recharging the groundwater there by replenishing the uplands, because that creates a clean environment for every species to thrive, and also our sailors and Marines to thrive in their training and operational environments.
Well, one of the things I've learned so much from the times that we've worked together on Climate Week NYC is there really are so many opportunities where people can make a real difference by working with you. And it's been fantastic to explore that in previous years. And I'm really excited to explore that even more this year at Climate Week NYC. Our strapline this year is "It's Time," and it's great to hear that urgency and that passion coming from the department that you run. So Ms. Berger, thank you so much for joining us this week in the run-up to Climate Week NYC as part of this nature program, and really, really look forward to seeing you again at Climate Week NYC this year.
Thank you so much. Me too. For the Department of the Navy, climate readiness is mission readiness, and we are doing it every day.